When it comes to Onyx, a lot of people like to tell me, why are they so focused on this? What do I mean by this? Sometimes they like to refer to this their layer one blockchain, which is called Goliath. Now, nothing I say is financial advice. However, in my perspective, as of right now, at least for a couple of years at this point, there's been kind of this trend of projects that say they want to do something, but they don't really kind of do anything, right? They don't really deliver on what they want to do in terms of the fundamentals. In terms of the price, of course, is a completely different scenario, but in terms of the fundamentals, in terms of the updates, in terms of the developments, we've kind of been seeing a trend where projects out there, they either are focused on too many things or they just don't really do anything, right? They don't really deliver on what they want to actually do. But when it comes to Onyx, people like to say, well, isn't being focused on their layer one blockchain such a trivial thing? They think that there's so many layer one blockchains out there, there's really kind of no importance when it comes to this. But I think it would be a pretty big milestone for the project fundamentally if it could actually achieve the mainnet launch, which they are planning to do in Q1 of 2026, and we are approaching 2026. But at least this year they did do the testnet, right? And the thing is this, that in and of itself, I already think is a pretty big victory for something like Onyx this year, because it showcases that, first of all, they're at least able to kind of do something, right? And also on top of that, it kind of showcases something that they haven't really done historically, which I feel like was having something fundamentally revolutionary happen to it that I just haven't seen throughout its history, you know? So when I take a look at something like this, when people like to ask me, why are they so focused on that? Well, because the thing is, if they're not focused on that, what else could they really be focused on? And isn't it pretty impressive for me to at least see them being focused on something and actually being able to almost do it right? Because they already did the testnet, but they haven't had the mainnet. As opposed to, in contrast, other projects out there, in some cases, they launched the project, but they're not really doing anything. So when I take a look at something like this, I think it brings more of a different approach to some other projects out there. And I think it showcases that despite Onyx being one of the few kind of popular options within the global trade and finance space, it's kind of at least doing something and not just being kind of lazy or I think complacent when it comes to its positioning. Because let's think about this, right? The niche that Onyx is in, there's just not that many famous competitors currently. It could change, but as of right now, that is just not the case. Stellar is number 2, XDC arguably number 3. Number 4 as of right now, I think it's like a toss-up between Sebek, or should I say ZBCN or Onyx. So it's like 4 and 5, right? Beyond that, there's like XPR Swiftcoin, so there's just not that many. But the thing is, actually Onyx, despite not having that many compelling competitors, it's at least doing something. Some other projects out there, we see in some niches, when they know that there's not that many competitors beyond a couple players, they just automatically go on cruise control mode, right? They just don't really care about it. They're like, yeah, whatever. But when it comes to Onyx, the vibe that they're giving to me, it doesn't feel that way. So when people like to ask me, why are they so focused on that? I think if anything, it's actually a good thing, right, that they're focused on their layer one blockchain, because why not? You know, other projects out there don't really do anything. At least they're doing something. It's not like Onyx is doing the greatest thing of all time. No, it's not. But at least it's doing something. You know what I mean? This is just my perspective. Like also, when I take a look at it, XCN is around 54 times lower than 25 cents. I'm totally aware of that. And it's not like necessarily the best situation out there. But to me, my kind of perspective is this. If something is low in terms of market cap, am I necessarily going to be complaining about that too much? I don't know if I would, because if, let's say, in a random make-believe scenario, I'm not even saying it has to do anything with this, it's just completely different, right? If something is at like level 1, right, the journey to level 10 is very far. You know what I mean? But the journey to 0 is kind of close. But the thing is this. Something like XDC, something like XLM, their market cap is pretty massive. So if I were to put an analogy on that, the level's like at a 4 when it comes to XDC probably, and then like XLM is like at a 8 or something like that. The journey from 4 to 10, sure, it's kind of far. The journey to 8 to 10, not that far, right? But the journey from 1 to 10, that's a little bit far. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of the analogy that I have here. I think sometimes Onyx does represent to me sort of this miniature version of some of the bigger projects out there that we have within this space, but just doesn't have that sort of massive market cap. where the journey, we already saw what it kind of did despite the pullback. However, when it comes to this, I have not really seen the full journey to that extent. I've never seen Onyx become mainstream. I've never seen Onyx be considered a competitor when it comes to XDC, or even mentioned sometimes in the same sentence as something like Stellar. Hasn't really been the case. It's more of a niche project in my perspective, but that's just kind of one of the reasons why I even like it to begin with, just because of that unique thing that I have not really seen when compared to some of its competitors. This is the way I take a look at it. So overall, when it comes to Onyx, my reaction right now is just, I guess I'm staying patient. I can't really do anything about this. However, I wanted to make this updated video to talk about kind of my perception when it comes to Onyx as of right now and just how I feel about it. And as of right now, I'm just waiting. 2025, it was a year that kind of showcased Onyx a little bit more because we did see the market cap momentarily reach around $1 billion, but right now it's like below 250 million. But besides that, and I think that if anything just showcased that if, let's say, XCN were to just go back to where it was in, earlier this year in 2025, like at around $1 billion in market cap, right now we're below 250 million in terms of market cap. So we're over 4 times lower than that. Right? And that was not even an altcoin season. Bitcoin is not over 4 times lower than where it once was, back earlier this year. It's just not. The thing is, Bitcoin is over 4 times lower than 400 grand, but it's never reached 400 grand ever in history. Right? At $1 billion in market cap, we saw that was not during an altcoin season. So if, let's say, there was no altcoin season, XCN just, for whatever reason, stayed at where it was back in January of this year, what happens if Bitcoin stayed at around 130 grand? Or let's say it stayed at even 150 grand. It's never reached 150 grand, but I'm saying in just a random example, right? We're not at a point where Bitcoin is over 2 times lower than that. It's just not. So this is just kind of my perception sometimes when it comes to Onyx. Onyx, of course, when I take a look at XCN, it's an altcoin, right? And it does not have the stability of an altcoin like Ethereum. No way, right? Ethereum is just way more popular, way more holders. I'm just saying, it's a completely different thing. But if there was an altcoin season, what would happen to Ethereum and what would happen to this? Based on just the level where they are as of right now, one seems a little bit close to level 10, the other one seems a little bit far. This is just my perception. But besides that, when I take a look at some of Onyx, there's nothing that I could really do about this, but also at the same time, what could the project do about it either? Do you think Onyx really wants the market cap to be like this? You know what I mean? Some projects out there, they can't have any control over what happens to the charts and the sentiment, and also what happens to an altcoin space or if there's an altcoin season. A lot of projects just can't do anything about that. You know what I mean? Even Ethereum, what can it do? As of right now, about where it is. Can Ethereum randomly decide when an altcoin season happens? No, this is just the way to take a look at it. I can't do anything about it, and I don't think Onyx can do anything about that either, but at least what they can do is work towards their layer 1 blockchain in terms of the mainnet, which I am seeing them do, right? So that's, I guess, the thing that they can control. And in my case, again, I can't control this space, so I just control myself. I'm just focusing on myself, just doing what I've been doing. I am dollar cost averaging once a month. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that's just it, basically. Other than that, I'm not really doing anything. Other than that, in terms of the project, sure, I'm taking a look at the updates and stuff like that. I'm making updated videos when it comes to Onyx, but really beyond that, there's really nothing I can do when it comes to this space, so I'm just waiting, and yeah, that's pretty much it. However, I want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a very happy New Year's, depending on when you watch this, and yeah, I'll catch y'all on the next video, and I hope you all have a very nice day.